So good morning, everyone. This morning we have Mr. David Pope, co-founder of the Wyoming Blockchain Coalition, a CPA and pioneer in helping with ensuring our government is preparing for the future of currency. The coalition promotes legislative and regulatory changes within the state and much more community outreach. So good morning, David. Thank you for being here with us.
Good morning, Jouell. It's very nice to be here, and I certainly appreciate the invitation.
Thank you. So my first question to get a little more familiar with you and your background is, how did you get started in this space, and did you have a strong tech background that helped you understand blockchain, and how were you exposed to this space initially? When did you realize this technology would be promising?
Well, I do not have a strong tech background. That's I'm a CPA, chartered global management accountant as well, and I have really never deeply immersed myself in the technology side. But I started reading about blockchain as opposed to most people who really get into this space do so through the cryptocurrency side.
Right.
And I read my first article about blockchain in 2014, and I honestly did not really think it was that big of a deal, just another database ledger combined, and I didn't really understand at that point that the power of the security that is behind a true blockchain distributed ledger. Right. So as time went on and I read more and more about it, I became a little more interested, and for me the tipping point came spring, like May or June of 2017, and I just started thinking about what would happen if blockchain were applied to a supply chain, a traditional supply chain. Right. And I thought the best thing for me to do would be to sit down in front of a whiteboard and just draw it out. And as I was drawing it out, it hit me. It really did. The self-auditable transactions, the inability to commit fraud, and then once you start joining blockchains together, a financial sector blockchain with the government regulatory and tax blockchain, and how everything can be accomplished with very few intermediaries. Yeah. One step, along with updating financial statements and all sorts of other things can happen if you apply blockchain. Right. As opposed to that, and what blockchain does is it fixes what I've always called the mini-scribe problem, and I would encourage your listeners to look up mini-scribe, which is a case from the 80s where there was massive fraud throughout a supply chain. Wow. And it cost investors billions in the 1980s. Wow. And this fixes that problem. And so that's what created my interest in it.
Wow, that's some valuable information there. So basically, once you got that interest going and that fuel, what was the journey like developing the coalition, and what did you go through to initiate the vision? How did you come about connecting with these people, and what was the journey like?
It was an amazing set of almost coincidences. At the same time I was sitting down in front of my whiteboard, Rob Jennings, who's one of the other co-founders, contacted me and said, "Hey, have you heard about blockchain, and this is going to be big?" And I said, "Well, that's funny because I was just looking at it myself." And Rob has kind of been the center of the hub of the coalition, in that once we started talking about it, he reached out and had been talking to another friend of his, who is Caitlin Long, who's very well known in the space. And she was an actual college friend of Rob's. And so the three of us together were the ones that formed the initial coalition.
Wow.
And from there, we just all reached out to people that we knew in Wyoming, business people, people from the university, people from the legislature, and it grew very quickly. We had our first meeting in November of 2017, and between November and the end of March of 2018, we had already been able to pass 5 bills in Wyoming.
Wow.
That within the blockchain and cryptocurrency area. One of the things that sort of helped us was that, first off, Caitlin Long had attempted to give cryptocurrency to the University of Wyoming as a donation, and the university couldn't accept it because of Wyoming's money transmitter laws. Second thing is that Cynthia Lummis, who at the time was in 2015, I believe, had attempted to get an account with one of the large exchanges. So that was our first target, was to exempt cryptocurrency from the Money Transmitters Act, and that was one of the bills that we passed.
Okay.
And that's how it all started. Our first meeting in the coalition has always been really a loose, distributed group of people that we really don't have any formal memberships. We don't there's no budget. We've done everyone that's worked on it has done it on a fully volunteer basis, and we've spent almost no money. Between all of us, there's been almost no money spent. It's been all education and working with the legislature.
Wow, that's really interesting. So when you guys kind of just got together and started pushing the bills, what exact bills have you passed thus far? I know you mentioned you did 5 within almost a year's time span. Do you have a few that stand out that are very impactful?
Certainly. There are a total of 13 bills so far that we've passed. 5 in 2018 and 8 in 2019. So it's it's quite a long list, but the ones that are important. Let's see, we've already talked about the Money Transmitters Act. The cryptocurrency is now not subject to the Wyoming Money Transmitters Act.
Okay.
The Electronic Records Act allows corporate records to be kept on a distributed ledger system. It also allows for corporate formations and UCC filings to be registered using blockchain technology. See, one of the things that Caitlin, when she talks about this, always comes up is that technology before the state of Wyoming, technology would have to be backwards compatible with the legal structure in place at the time the technology is created. So what our goal was to move the legal structure forward so that developers could be comfortable in Wyoming with the legal structure and the regulatory structure here already, so that they can come into Wyoming and develop their projects here. So then the big one in 2018 was House Bill 70, which is the utility token safe harbor, which that was kind of the shot heard around the world. We've received international interest in the state because of that. We are the first regulatory body in the world to define what a utility token is and to exempt it from our state security laws.
Wow.
That was the big, the really big one in 2017. We defined series LLCs as a separate form of entity, mainly because that is one of the preferred organizational structures for digital asset companies. And we exempted digital assets from property tax in Wyoming.
Oh,
So yes, Wyoming has no income tax. So it's everything, the taxes that we assess are property taxes and sales taxes and mineral excise taxes predominantly. So what we wanted to do was provide this exemption so that digital assets would not be subject to really any taxation in Wyoming that's on a value-added basis.
wow. That's
So,
amazing. Yeah. See,
so that was,
sorry, go ahead.
no, you go ahead. I
I was
apologize.
just saying, it seems like you guys have done a ton of work since the time span you initiated this process. I'm really interested in learning like how you got the politicians to be on board with your strategy and your mission. How did you guys get them to create an understanding that blockchain technology is important and is going to dominate the future soon, and that it will help with the management and authenticity for products used by companies? How did you get them to understand this is going somewhere, it's going to be the future, be on board, and let's be the trendsetters for this whole country?
Well, one of the things I have to start out by saying is that the Wyoming legislature is not a deadlocked legislature like a lot of states. A lot of states that have one party or another that has a slim majority, and there's a tremendous amount of acrimony in today's political world. So it's difficult for many states to get legislature passed.
Yeah.
Wyoming is different in that respect, but that doesn't mean we're without that some of that same sort of acrimony. And in a budget year, which that's what 2018 was, there are battles within the legislature for the budget to come together. And I think everybody in the legislature in that year they just wanted something that everyone could rally around. Each of the bills in 2018 and 2019 as well passed with 1 to 2 no votes out of the entire legislature.
Wow.
And many of them passed unanimously. So it's something that that's a minor miracle in itself.
Right.
But what we did in order to promote that within the legislature is we had a couple of very strong legislators that were behind this when we educated them ahead of time. And I mentioned Tyler Lindholm earlier on, Ogden Driscoll, who is a true cowboy from the northeast part of Wyoming, and he is someone almost out of central casting in a Western movie. And Tara Nethercott, who is a state senator from my district, and a few other key people that we educated first. Okay. And then, like me, I pulled together the Laramie County Caucus, which is Laramie County is the highest population within the state. Okay. And I brought that caucus together and gave them a class and showed them exactly on the whiteboard what made it magical for me. And it just took on a life of its own, and we were able to get all 5 of the bills passed in a budget session.
Wow. That's amazing. So you said you kind of took them to the whiteboard. So what are you guys doing for the community? Are you guys hosting meetups, educational meetups to teach and inform others and the masses to start getting on board?
I continue to teach and to lecture on the technology within the state to community groups, and to have been out at the university several times, to the law school and to the business school, talking about it. The coalition itself goes a little bit silent during the spring and summer as a whole, and then we come back together as we prepare for the next legislative session. So the other thing that we're doing is the university is hosting a hackathon on September 19th through 22nd. And last year, in the first hackathon, competitors came from all over the world. And we had companies like Consensus and Kraken, and we had, and Kraken, by the way, is the named sponsor this year. And we also had Joe Lubin was there, and Patrick Byrne. And it draws people from all over the world. My favorite story, because I was my accounting firm was one of the minor sponsors, but a young man from a small village in Africa had made the trek. He had to ride his bike to a city, take a bus from that city to another city, get on a plane, go, and it's like a 27-hour adventure, hopping between airports and then coming finally into Cheyenne. I loved that story because I feel that young man is going to go someplace.
Right.
He is, yes, just a wonderful, wonderful experience that I had meeting him and a whole bunch of other people from around the world.
Wow, that just shows how this technology is going to dominate, and it's something that is sparking the interest of a lot of people. And speaking of that, what are your thoughts on the recent congressman and their mentioning of Bitcoin, Libra, all of these cryptocurrencies now? We see Congressman McHenry, he's all for it. He's saying it's an unstoppable force, which is great for our community. But what are your thoughts about those who are kind of in the dark? There's a lot of people in Congress who have no tech background, so they're kind of not even aware of the massive way this technology will dominate. What are you thinking is going to happen, and will these initiatives follow to the White House? What are your thoughts?
Well, I've had members of the coalition that have had discussions with the Wyoming legislature in Washington, and initially we're getting somewhat of a cool reception. It's there, which is odd given the fact that the state legislature and the people of the state of Wyoming are so pro blockchain and pro cryptocurrency. But I feel we can change their minds. We did great work here to change legislators' minds. I think we can take care of that on the federal level too. So what I see happening is one of two things. That the federal legislative branch is nearly deadlocked in everything right now, and it's difficult for people to cross the aisles for anything. So that's going to. But what I also see is that if they don't come to terms with this in a very positive manner, capital, both intelligent young people and money will be leaving the United States, and pursuing this elsewhere in the United States will fall further and further behind. Right. We've already got a number of other countries that are ahead of the United States in the development and use of blockchain and cryptocurrency. And so I think everyone right now will admit that the United States is in danger of falling behind.
Right.
So, and then if you look at it, it's going to happen regardless of what the legislature, the legislative branch of the U.S. government does,
Wow.
because this is uncontainable. You cannot contain it within your borders. China regularly tries to do so,
Right.
and the Chinese government does, and regularly they have to backtrack and reassess and open things up again, and so it's something that will happen. You look at with the Colibra and Libra that Facebook is putting together. If the U.S. doesn't allow it in some form or other, Facebook is so international that it will happen someplace else regardless.
Right.
And it'll be difficult for us to stop.
Wow. It's amazing that you guys were on board to see this vision. So to wrap up, do you guys have any or would you personally have any advice for those interested in beginning a coalition in their state and cities?
Yes. It has to involve the tech sector. It cannot be exclusive to the tech sector. It has to, I think we found a tremendous amount of value in pulling together 3 or 4 very friendly, very powerful legislators. Go to the universities. The universities will support this, and find the well-respected professors, university administrators, those people within the university that can help supply the gravitas of it, and then go to the business community as well, and find the accountants, the lawyers that believe in this, and work with the legislature. May take baby steps at first, but work with them and just move the ball forward, and make sure that you do it with caution, because there will be a desire to overregulate this this field, and that frankly will just drive people out of the state, whatever state it is. That'll drive people, drive the developers out. There's a saying in Wyoming that if you want a dog to hunt, you can't keep him on the leash. So if they want all of the benefits of blockchain, all of the benefits of cryptocurrency, and there are a number of huge social benefits to both of those sides of the technology. If you want that, then to a certain extent, you have to let go of the reins a little bit. Let the technology work itself out.
Right.
There's roughly 31% of the population of the world does not have a bank account. And if you take the United States and Western Europe out of the picture, that accelerates to somewhere around 50%. And if you don't have a bank account, you have no way to store wealth. You have no real future. What blockchain and cryptocurrency provides is the ability to have your bank on your cell phone. There are 2.7 billion smartphones out there.
Right.
So that's the power of this technology. Amazing.
Wow, thank you so much, Mr. David Pope here. Really had some great information. We're going to wrap it up, and let's go ahead and say our goodbyes. If you'd like to mention anything that you guys are doing, or any other last words, please feel free.
Look up wyohackathon.io, and come out to Wyoming and see for yourself how our culture and our technology and our regulatory atmosphere will fit what the space is doing.
Wow. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm gonna press stop.